While gathering medicinal herbs in the mountains, I came across a gravely wounded man. He promised me that, so long as I saved him and brought him out alive, he would take me as his concubine. Was becoming a concubine supposed to be some kind of blessing? Second sister Area from next door had become the concubine of the prefect. In less than 2 months, she was beaten to death by the lawful wife and thrown into a mass grave. Her own family did not even dare retrieve her corpse. I shook my head. I refuse to be a concubine. If you truly wish to repay me, give me 100 taels. Before I could finish, the man cut me off. You wish to become my lawful wife. A rustic village girl like you lacks the status. To become a concubine of the Yongchang Marquis Manor is already a fortune beyond measure for someone like you. Perhaps he had not heard me clearly, so I patiently repeated myself. Give me 100 taels of silver, and we shall consider your debt repaid. No, I am the heir of a marquis household. How could I possibly repay kindness with ingratitude? You saved me. Therefore, I must reward you by taking you as my concubine and sheltering you from wind and rain. The man truly could not understand human speech. Drawing a deep breath, I lifted a massive stone from the ground and smashed it toward him beneath his horrified gaze. His head lolled to the side as he collapsed limply onto the earth, utterly devoid of life. Concubine, concubine, concubine. Go become your own damned concubine in the next life. So he had money after all. Sure enough, the wealthier a man was, the stingier he became. He even wanted to take a concubine without spending a single coin. To hell with him. I tucked away the jade pendant and sighed at the dead man lying on the ground. Since I have already done the good deed halfway, I shall at least bury you properly. After all, I was a soft-hearted person. You killed him, a man clad in splendid brocade robes, though equally battered and wounded, staggered out from the forest, thunderstruck with fury. You audacious peasant woman! How dare you assassinate the heir of the Yongchang Marquis Manor? I frowned. Did you see it happen? The man froze. See what? If you saw nothing, then why are you shouting nonsense? He was covered in wounds. Do you truly believe a frail young woman like me could have done that? The heir of the Yongchang Marquis Manor bore numerous saber wounds and had even taken an arrow. Blood poured from him endlessly. Without timely treatment, death would have claimed him sooner or later. I had merely done him a small kindness by ending his suffering early. The man before me appeared to find my reasoning rather convincing, for his anger subsided somewhat. To be frank with you, I am the Prince of Southern Gen. If the young lady is willing to save me, this prince shall reward you handsomely. Oh, another nobleman. The title Prince of Southern Gen already sounded far more exalted than the heir of Yongchang Marquis Manor, and undoubtedly more valuable as well. 100 taels of silver was far too little. It did not suit the lofty status of the Prince of Southern Gen. I should ask for 1,000 taels first. If he refused, I could always lower the price. With enough money, I would no longer need to risk my life climbing mountains to gather herbs. I could even open an apothecary of my own. So I asked plainly, what reward? The Prince of Southern Gen replied, the current emperor has no sons this time. I have been summoned to the capital by imperial decree. Do you understand what that signifies? I shook my head. It had nothing to do with me. The only thing I cared about was silver. The Prince of Southern Gen choked on his words. Utterly foolish. Very well. I shall educate you properly in the future. If the young lady saves me, I may grant you the position of secondary consort. His tone brimmed with arrogance, as though he stood above all beneath heaven itself. Once I inherit the throne, you shall become an imperial consort within the palace. basking endlessly in glory and wealth, wielding supreme authority. The injuries covering his body finally overwhelmed him. He slid down against the trunk of a great tree, face pale as paper, yet his gaze remained loftily disdainful. I leaned closer and lowered my voice. "Speak softer. Are you trying to attract wild beasts? I do not wish to become your secondary consort," he exclaimed. "You wish to become the principal consort. Impossible. Your status is far too low. Even granting you the position of secondary consort is elevating you beyond measure. Under ordinary circumstances, a woman of your station would not even qualify to enter my manor as a lowly concubine." His voice dripped with mockery, his eyes full of contempt, as though bestowing the title of secondary consort upon me were the greatest fortune imaginable. "I told you to lower your voice. If wild beasts come, neither of us will escape." No matter how good my temper ordinarily was, I could not help growing irritated now. The stench of blood was already thick enough, yet he still shouted at the top of his lungs, apparently terrified that the wolves and tigers of the mountain might fail to locate us. Without hesitation, I stuffed a handful of grass into his mouth. "You need not marry me. Simply give me 1,000 taels of silver as payment." "Is that too much?" 800 taels would also suffice. 700. Nod or shake your head. The Prince of Southern Gen stared fixedly at me without moving. I frowned. 500 taels. No lower than that. If you still refuse, then remain here and await your fate. Mem.He, Mem.Hack. I shall remove the grass, but you must promise to speak quietly. Only after he nodded did I pull the weeds from his mouth. Countless women would claw each other apart just to enter my manor, yet you dare refuse me. Escort this prince safely back to my estate, and I may even grant you the mercy of an intact corpse. It seemed the Prince of Southern Gen had never before suffered such humiliation. Ignoring his own perilous situation, he began spewing threats recklessly. The murderous intent in his words was overwhelming. Had he not been too gravely injured to move, I likely would already have died by his hand. Another arrogant fool, incapable of understanding human speech. With regret, I picked up the blood-stained stone once more. "Stop. Dare assassinate the future son of heaven, and this prince shall exterminate your 9 generations. I shall sell you into the filthiest brothel alive, where 1,000 men will mount you and 10,000 men will ride." His voice, shrill with fury and terror, came to an abrupt halt. The self-proclaimed Prince of Southern Gen rolled his eyes back and crumpled onto the ground. A gaping hole smashed through his skull as blood streamed endlessly outward. I checked his breathing. Nothing. Quite good, really. One clean strike, and he suffered little otherwise. End. My conscience would have weighed heavily upon me. After all, I was a soft-hearted person. This man, calling himself the Prince of Southern Gen, carried quite a number of valuable possessions. A jade pendant, a bracelet, a jade thumb ring. Any single item among them would fetch several hundred taels. It was never good to value silver too dearly. In the end, would it not all come into my hands anyway? The scent of blood would easily attract wild beasts, so I buried the bloodstains beneath dirt and cleaned the scene thoroughly. I then dragged the 2 men who had shared hardship together to an open clearing beside a water source, preparing to burn the bodies before burying them properly afterward. The deep mountains teemed with wolves and tigers. Even if I dug graves and buried them, wild beasts would most likely uncover the corpses and devour them. The thought alone was too pitiful. Better to cremate them and let them rest peacefully beneath the earth. A weak young woman like me labored the entire afternoon without a single person to help. Sweat soaked completely through my clothes before I finally gathered barely enough firewood. My stomach growled with hunger. I took out the dry rations I carried with me, preparing to make do with a simple meal. Miss, please save me. Yet another severely wounded man appeared. Had I stumbled into a den of men today? His body was filthy beyond description, his complexion deathly pale. The blood staining him had already dried into dark brown clumps. With immense difficulty, he crawled out from behind a tree and exhausted all the strength he had left to speak in one breath. I am Jiang Jie, son of the Grand General of the Dragon Martial Guard. If the young lady is willing to save me, I shall present 1,000 taels of gold in gratitude. Make the young lady my lawful wife and swear to cherish you faithfully for the rest of my life. Should I break this vow, may heaven strike me dead. Now, that was interesting. If I become your lawful wife, what will happen to your current wife? The debt of saving one's life outweighs all else. My wife is an exceptionally reasonable woman. She will surely be willing to relinquish the position of lawful wife to you and gladly demote herself to concubine. I had merely intended to test whether he already had a wife. I never expected that he truly did. Your wife must surely come from a noble family as well. Is she genuinely willing? A woman, once married, must regard her husband as heaven itself. Whether she is willing or not is not hers to decide. What sort of daughter must suffer the misfortune of 8 lifetimes to marry a man like you? I drew a deep breath and pointed toward the pile of firewood. Do you recognize them? Jiangji cast a quick glance before crying out mournfully, I recognize them. The heir of the Yongchang Marquis Manor and the Prince of Southern Zhen. We entered the mountains together to hunt, only to encounter assassins and become separated. I never imagined those two would fall victim to the assassins' vicious hands. Once I return to the capital and report this matter to His Majesty, I shall inform him that the young lady compassionately gathered their remains. The Yongchang Marquis Manor and the Prince of Southern Zhen's estate will surely reward you generously, and His Majesty himself may bestow gifts upon you as well. I fell silent. During my dragging of the corpses, their ceremonial crowns had fallen away, their robes had torn beyond recognition, and piles of firewood now covered their bodies. Dusk had nearly arrived, leaving the forest dim and shadowed. Even if one approached closely, their faces would remain unseen without moving aside the firewood. Yet he recognized them with a mere glance. Please save me. Once I inherit the general's manor, everyone within shall honor you as the mistress of the household, and the management of the estate will rest entirely in your hands. The remainder of his words was smashed back down his throat by my stone. This man possessed rather tenacious vitality. Even after taking a blow from my stone, he did not die immediately, but instead demanded why. He had offered me silver and even promised to make me his lawful wife. Why then did I still insist on killing him? Did he think losing 1,000 taels of gold caused me no pain? My heart ached as though a great hole had been torn through it. Yet compared to that little heartache, I feared far more possessing the fortune to take the money without living long enough to spend it. This man had clearly witnessed me killing the Prince of Southern Zhen and only emerged because he could no longer hold out. A man capable of bending and yielding when necessary would have no trouble crushing an ant like me once he recovered. Come to think of it, did not the Grand General of the Dragon Martial Guard have only daughters? Since when had a son appeared? He must have been a fraud. With that thought, I decisively smashed another stone into him. This man carried no valuable ornaments upon him. only 2 silver ingots, poor as dirt. Yet he dared claim to be the son of a great general. Could he not have brought a little more money when leaving home? Still, it soothed my vexed heart somewhat. Ready silver was far better than accessories. It bore no identifying marks and could be spent directly without needing to pass through the black market. For now, the ornaments could only be hidden away and admired in secret. I dragged his corpse onto the pile of firewood as well. The 3 brothers lay neatly together as one great blaze reduced them to ashes. The fire burned all the way until dawn the following morning, before the final flicker of flame died out. I had kept watch the entire night, fearing stray sparks might ignite the forest, so I could extinguish them with water in time. The nearby villagers lived by relying on these mountains. It would not do to ruin them, since the 3 of you knew one another. At least you shall have companions upon the road to the underworld. Rest assured, I shall find you a fine burial ground blessed with good feng shui. In your next lives, perhaps reincarnate as livestock instead. After all, you clearly never understood human speech. Beside the water source, I dug a pit and tossed in the bones that had not fully burned, followed by several handfuls of ash. Then I covered everything firmly with packed earth and weighed it down with stones. That way, no wild beast would be able to dig them back up. The mountains and rivers here are beautiful. Rest in peace. Encountering me had truly been a blessing for those 3 men. Most others would never trouble themselves to clean up the aftermath so thoroughly. After laboring for so long, I was utterly exhausted and half asleep on my feet. I began walking back toward the small hut where I temporarily stayed in the mountains, intending to rest before continuing my herb gathering. Halfway there, a hand suddenly shot out from the grass and seized my ankle, startling me so badly that I leapt into the air. The hand was slender, pale, and covered in wounds, yet surprisingly strong. Pushing aside the brush, I discovered that it was indeed a woman. She wore narrow sleeves and a high ponytail, her attire crisp and efficient. Merely looking at her felt refreshing and dignified. How strange. Not only had I apparently stumbled into a nest of men today, I had wandered into a nest of wounded people as well. I reached out to check her breathing. Alive. I lightly patted her face. Miss, wake up. The woman opened her eyes weakly. Miss, save me. From within her robes, she pulled out a gold bracelet and a golden hairpin, pressing them into my hands before fainting unconscious. Heavy, pure gold. Moreover, they bore no identifying marks, and the designs were exceedingly plain. Ah, well, who could blame me for being soft-hearted? I could only carry the woman back to my hut in the mountains, cleanse her wounds thoroughly, and apply the medicinal herbs I had gathered. I also brewed medicine to reduce her fever and forcibly fed it to her. I had done everything within my power. The rest depended upon fate. Fortunately, by the following morning, her fever had broken, and she regained consciousness. The kindness you have shown me shall certainly be repaid. I waved my hands repeatedly and produced the bracelet and hairpin she had given me. You have already paid me. There is no need for further repayment. These nobles all seemed somewhat unsound in the head. Who knew whether her idea of repayment might prove terrifying? I am the only legitimate daughter, born of the current Emperor-Princess Yuanzhao. You are my savior, and naturally, you shall receive a great reward. Once I return, I shall personally petition Imperial Father to grant you the title of. Surely, she was not about to make me an imperial consort. Even if the emperor himself possessed supreme honor and dignity, I still had no desire to become his concubine. I especially did not wish to enter the imperial palace. The women within were forbidden from leaving, no different from prisoners, since I had no means of resisting nobles. I could only strike while her illness weakened her and end matters quickly. No need. County, lady, become this princess, sworn younger sister, and I shall grant you wealth and authority. I immediately withdrew my searching gaze from the nearby tools that might serve conveniently as weapons. Truly, the princess answered solemnly, I am not the sort who repays kindness with ingratitude. If you have any other requests, feel free to speak them as well. Joy bloomed across my face. No need, no need. This is already wonderful enough. This commoner thanks your highness for your favor. Sure, enough kindness always brought rewards. Had this not arrived already? Oh, right. What was it you wished to say just now? The princess struggled to sit upright. I hurried forward to help her up, thoughtfully placing a pillow behind her back. I merely meant that your highness has only just awakened and need not exhaust yourself. If there is anything you require, simply command me. Even if you wished me to hunt a tiger for nourishment, I would depart at once. In the days that followed, I served the princess diligently and attentively, striving with all my might to satisfy her. That being said, did not nobles usually travel surrounded by maids and servants in droves? Then why was it that none of the people I encountered had a single guard beside them? Could it be that this woman had arrived long ago and hidden herself in the shadows, secretly observing me the entire time? Surely that was far too suspicious-minded of me. After all, I was soft-hearted and kind. How could I possibly commit evil deeds? The princess wished for me to accompany her back to the capital, but I first needed to dry the medicinal herbs I had painstakingly gathered. Before departing, she left me a command token and instructed me not to wander about while awaiting the people she would send to escort me. Instead, the first to arrive were the men sent by my father, who invited me back to the manor without permitting refusal. Well, old man, tired of peaceful days already, dragging me back just to irritate yourself. The moment I opened my mouth, the face of the Grand General of the Dragon Martial Guard twisted violently. A moment earlier, his eyes had brimmed with tears, as though he wished to enact some touching reunion between loving father and dutiful daughter. You do not miss your father at all. Were you not the one who sent me away and ignored me for all these years? A flicker of guilt crossed my father's face. I only did that because Master Jeer has been missing for so many days already. Something must have happened to him. Please send more men to search. Even if the entire capital must be overturned, he must be found. My mother entered weeping loudly, alongside her niece from her maiden family, Jiang Yan. Cousin's disappearance has distressed sister-in-law so greatly that it has disturbed her pregnancy. Who is Jeer? I was curious. I was puzzled. What did his disappearance have to do with my father? Jeer is naturally the son born to the master and myself. My mother frowned deeply. I knew it. The moment you returned, Jeer encountered misfortune. You must have cursed him. I refuse to shoulder such blame. If you suffer from delusions, then hire a physician, or perhaps invite a spirit medium to dance about and exorcise ghosts. Barking like a dog is useless. Then I sincerely asked my father, since when did you suddenly gain such a grown son? Did my mother not give birth only to me? Insolence. Matters between elders are not for you to question. Was I speaking to you? Master, look at her. She does not place me, her mother, in her eyes at all. My father guiltily stared at the heavens and the ground alike, completely ignoring my mother's tearful accusations. 2 years ago, Jiang Yan immediately spoke with righteous indignation. Cousin, how can you speak so viciously toward uncle and aunt? As a daughter, one must obey parents and elders within the household. Even if you learned no proper manners while living at the estate in the countryside, you should still understand such principles. I lifted my eyelids lazily and glanced at her coolly. You speak of learning manners. Yet do you not know not to interrupt while others are talking? Seems your manners are not particularly impressive either. Father should hire a few more governesses so you may study all over again. Aunt, I know I live under your roof and constantly fear causing trouble for you and uncle. Every day I act cautiously and serve you both dutifully. Why does cousin still dislike me so much? What have I done wrong? I clicked my tongue in amazement. Your talent for changing expressions has certainly improved over the years. Have you been studying opera at the theater? At the very least. I am the daughter of a respectable household. Cousin compares me to an actress merely because I have neither father nor mother. Just like 10 years ago, the moment Zhang Yan cried, my mother instantly transformed into a furious hen protecting her chick. Li apologized to Yaner this instant. You ill-bred wretch. I ignored her unreasonable demand entirely and stretched lazily. I am tired and need rest. Do I at least have a courtyard to stay in? My mother trembled with rage. My father instructed the steward to lead the way for me. Behind me rang my mother's voice, powerless with fury. Master, are you truly going to let her behave so lawlessly? My father had truly risen in the world. 10 years ago, he had merely been a minor general of the third rank. Back then, the residence had not been nearly so grand. After becoming the second-rank Grand General of the Dragon Martial Guard, he had evidently profited quite handsomely over the years. Hearing my muttered remark, the steward hurriedly wiped the cold sweat from his brow and explained, Miss, all of this came later. The general earned merit, protecting his majesty, and these rewards were bestowed through entirely proper means. Your courtyard was personally overseen by the general himself. Madam wished to give it to the young Miss Cousin, but the general refused. My father truly had put his heart into it. Every corner of the courtyard had been arranged with painstaking care. The only issue was that the style was precisely the sort my mother used to like. Where exactly did my father acquire a son? The young master is young Miss Cousin's twin brother, Jiang Ji. 3 years ago, Madam had him adopted over from the Jiang family. His name was entered into the He family genealogy, and he was renamed He Jia, and my father simply agreed to that. Madam locked herself inside her room for 3 days and 3 nights without food or water. The master feared something might happen to her. I had heard before that Jiang Yan possessed a twin brother who had always been raised within the Jiang family. Never would I have imagined that, upon our first meeting, I would help the mortal enemy who sought to steal my father and seize my inheritance. I truly was too soft-hearted. After a full day of travel, I had the servants prepare hot water for a comfortable bath, then fell into a deep sleep. Half a quarter hour later, a young man's trembling voice drifted through the darkness. Do we truly have to do this? She is, after all, the legitimate daughter of the general. Another voice, belonging to a middle-aged woman, replied softly, What is there to fear? Once her chastity is ruined, she will have no choice but to marry you. Becoming the son-in-law of the general's manor means soaring straight to glory and high office. Countless people would kill for such an opportunity. But what if we are discovered? So timid and spineless, wealth and splendor are within arm's reach. Yet you refuse them. If you do not want them, others certainly will. Ill do it. The door creaked open gently. A shadow crept stealthily through the darkness toward my bedside. The instant he lifted the bed curtains, I smashed a porcelain pillow squarely into his head. The intruder let out a muffled groan, collapsed half across the bed, and ceased breathing entirely. That little bit of sleeping drug was nowhere near enough to knock me unconscious. Clutching the porcelain pillow, I stepped barefoot onto the floor and silently opened the door. Outside, the waiting woman muttered to herself, He Li, oh, He Li, you simply had to return and block my son's future. Do not blame me for being ruthless. Before she could react, she too received a porcelain pillow directly to the head and crumpled onto the ground. Just as stubborn as her son, she did not die immediately. There was still breath left in her. I am your mother. If you kill your own mother, heaven itself will never forgive. How could you possibly be my mother? You are Jiang Yan and Jiang Jie's mother instead. Eldest aunt, you little bastard. So, you truly knew. I leaned close to her ear and whispered softly, were you not constantly longing for your precious Jie? Now, you may finally reunite with him. You killed Jie. Unwilling and resentful, she swallowed her final breath. Master, the eldest young miss has killed Madam. My mother's personal governess rushed over with my father, wailing like a ghost. Master, you must seek justice for Madam. My father abruptly turned his head, his gaze dark and heavy as it fixed upon the governess. Whom did you just accuse of murder? The governess's breathing faltered. The eldest young miss. It is pitch black outside. How could you possibly see the killer clearly? This is plainly a malicious frame-up. Men, gag this vile servant who slanders her masters and drag her away for strict confinement. The instant my father spoke, the steward entered alongside 2 guards and hauled away the horrified governess. Only father and I remained behind. My father stood silent for a very long time before finally speaking. You acted too impulsively, father. After all these years, it is time you awakened. She was never mother, and she could never tell you where mother is. My real mother was murdered by them long ago. Silence. My father's voice cracked violently. Your mother is alive. She must still be alive. One day, I shall bring her home. For 12 entire years. Are you truly unable to accept that mother is already dead? Or have you simply grown addicted to the tender paradise offered by the thief who stole her place? It must be the latter. After all, you even adopted her son. Human hearts changed easily. After all these years, my father had long since lost his original resolve. The marriage between the Yangchang Marquis Manor and the He family had been decreed personally by the emperor. Yet the spoiled young lady of the Marquis household despised rough military men born in the countryside. She preferred a handsome, impoverished scholar traveling to the capital for the imperial examinations, and ultimately eloped with him, fearing punishment for deceiving the throne. The Yangchang Marquis Manor instead forced their second daughter, who had once gone missing during a family pilgrimage at the age of 1 before eventually being recovered at a masquerade, as the eldest daughter and marry into the He family. To the outside world, they announced that the second daughter had grown up untamed in the countryside and had disgraced the Marquis household by eloping with another man against parental command and proper betrothal arrangements. Thus, she had been struck from the family registry. My mother and Jiang Yan's mother had originally been twin sisters. Their appearances and heights were utterly identical. At banquets, my father had only glimpsed the young lady of the Yangchang Marquis Manor from afar a handful of times. They had never spoken, never truly known one another. Naturally, he never realized the Marquis household had substituted another bride. The He family itself was small and uncomplicated. Aside from an elderly matriarch with a kind disposition who never tormented her daughter-in-law, there were few family members to speak of. My father possessed a resolute temperament, while my mother was gentle and soft-spoken. During the course of their marriage, affection gradually blossomed between them. Their elders were benevolent. The husband and wife deeply loved one another. Thus, my mother lived a very happy life after marriage. The disaster occurred when I was 5 years old. The Marchioness of Yangchang fell gravely ill and sent word that she longed to see my mother again, requesting that she return to the Marquis Manor for a short stay. The current emperor valued filial piety above all else. Even though my mother did not wish to return to the Yangchang Marquis Manor, She had no choice for the sake of my father's career. During the time spent at the Marquis residence, my mother moved into the Marchioness's courtyard to nurse her illness, while I stayed elsewhere under the watch of the Marchioness's trusted governess. No matter how desperately I cried and threw tantrums, they refused to let me see Mother. Later, my mother finally came to take me home, and she brought Zhang Yan with her. Ali Yaner's mother has passed away. Her father drinks heavily, gambles constantly, and their household has fallen into hardship. She lives a very difficult life. From now onward, she shall be a young miss of the general's manor, just as you are. Although her tone, expressions, gestures, and every movement were identical to my mother's, I knew she was not my mother. After returning to the general's manor, I cried to father that the woman who came back was not Mother at all. I told him Mother had been buried beneath an osmanthus tree in the rear garden of the Yongcheng Marquis Manor. I had seen it myself while crawling through a dog hole in search of her. My father secretly infiltrated the Marquis residence to investigate. He found nothing. Father then began subtly probing the mother within our household, testing her at every turn. Instead, all those tests only proved that she truly was my mother. After Jiang Yan entered the manor, she fought me in everything and competed with me at every opportunity. I was never soft by nature. She could gain no advantage over me directly, but she had powerful backing. By the time my father returned home, I had already been punished into kneeling within the ancestral hall for 5 days without food, reduced to barely a single breath away from death. My mother threw herself upon me while weeping hypocritically. Ali, Mother never truly wished to punish you, but your temperament is far too wild. You clash with your parents and refuse harmony with your sisters. If you are not disciplined properly, you shall cause terrible disaster someday. Little Zhang Yan cried along beside her. Cousin, I was wrong. I shall stop eating chicken drumsticks. I never tried to steal ant from you either. You may beat or scold me however you wish. I will never fight back. Soon, rumors spread throughout the capital that I was rebellious and unfilial, bullying the weak despite my privileged status. At the time, my father was overwhelmed with official duties, while grandmother was already advanced in years. Neither possessed the energy to manage me any longer. Thus, they decided to send me away to the rural estate. The day I left, I cried bitterly and begged father not to send me away. Father, Ali is a good child. Ali is not lying. She is not my mother. My father crouched down and stroked my head gently. Ali, father believes you, but father must keep her here in order to find your mother. You claimed you kept her alive to uncover clues about mother's whereabouts. Yet after all these years, there has still been no news whatsoever. You sent away your own flesh and blood, brought your enemy's children home to raise, and even intended to hand the entire family over to your enemy's son. Father, do Mother and I no longer hold any place within your heart? My father lowered his head in defeat. Ali, father, has wronged your mother, and even more so wronged you. Father shall make it up to you. Those were his own words. Beast. Even tearing you apart by 5 horses and hacking your corpse into 10,000 pieces would still fail to comfort my daughter's spirit in heaven or ease the hatred in my heart. The old Marchioness had raised Zhang Yan's mother like a precious jewel. Now that she had died, suddenly, grief naturally consumed her completely. The once pampered old Marchioness appeared utterly haggard. My father refused to hand me over, partly because he protected his own blood, and partly because I was his only child. Over all these years, it was not as though he had never tried Yet neither his lawful wife nor his concubines had managed to bear him another son or daughter. Not long after leaving the manor, I would often hide beside the little river outside the estate and cry. No one cared. It was there that I met an older girl. She asked me why I was crying, though I had still been young at the time. The sudden upheaval and the whispers surrounding me had allowed me to vaguely understand my situation. I said, "Father married a new mother and sent me away. In the future, there will be other children. I am just a pitiful little thing nobody wants." The girl's heroic brows arched upward. "Little fool, even if you became a beggar and starved to death, no one would pity you. If you want something, then fight for it and seize it yourself. Understand?" I tilted my head up at her. "How do I fight for it? Teach me, sister." She took out a porcelain bottle. "Give this to your father to drink. Will it poison my father to death? Of course not. If your father dies, who will earn glory and wealth for you? This medicine will ensure that everything your father possesses in the future belongs only to you. At the end of the year, I secretly hid within the caravan transporting New Year goods from the estate back to the manor. Father, my mother, and Jiang Yan were seated together in new clothes, eating the New Year's Eve dinner as a joyful family of 3. The sight pierced my eyes like needles. Tears spilled down at once. After wiping them away, I uttered not a single complaint. Instead, I obediently said that I had missed father and made him a sweet lamb's milk soup I had learned to prepare at the estate. I acted spoiled and coquettish until he drank every drop. Not once did I place father in a difficult position. I even voluntarily returned to the estate with the caravan afterward. To this very day, father still remembered that dessert. Whenever he spoke of it, he proudly praised how I had braved snow and bitter winds at such a young age just to return and show filial devotion to him. The old Marchioness had been the mastermind behind my mother's death, so why was she still alive and well, while even now my mother's remains remained missing? I searched around for something suitable to use as a weapon. One strike to smash her to death, and all grievances would end. Her Highness, the princess, has arrived. Well, now such drawn swords and bent bows. What has happened here? Speak, and let this princess hear it. The princess' sudden arrival stunned everyone into silence. The previously chaotic general's manner instantly quieted. Relying upon her advanced age, the old Marchioness stepped forward. "Your Highness, the Grand General of the Dragon Martial Guard is shielding the murderer who killed her own mother He herself. He treats the laws of the realm as though they were nothing. I beg your Highness to seek justice for my poor daughter who died so tragically." The princess seated herself in the place of honor. Such a thing truly occurred. "General He, what say you?" My father replied, "Utter nonsense. Ali is a filial child. She had only just returned to the manor. How could she possibly murder her mother? The matter has already been thoroughly investigated. It was the old servant woman beside Madame who stole valuables in order to repay her son's gambling debts. After being discovered, she murdered Madame to silence her. The old Marchioness may be elderly and easily misled, but she cannot simply condemn someone to death with mere words. Everything requires evidence. Guilt cannot be established simply because you say so. I am the evidence." Jiang Yan knelt before the princess and pointed directly at me. "I beg your Highness to seek justice. It truly was cousin who killed aunt." The princess ignored Jiang Yan entirely and looked toward me instead. "And what do you say?" I bowed respectfully toward the princess, replying, "To your Highness. Since Jiang Yan claims herself to be evidence, then let her clearly explain the time and place of the incident, my motive, the murder weapon, and exactly who was present." Jiang Yan could not answer. She stammered helplessly, You were jealous that aunt treated me kindly, and because of that, I would murder my own mother." Jiang Yan The excuse you use to slander me is far too clumsy. Jiang Yan herself had never participated in the affair. All she heard was the governess shouting, "The eldest young miss has killed madam." In her panic, she had not even dared look inside before fleeing amid the chaos to seek reinforcements from the Yongchang Marquis manor. The princess leisurely sipped her tea. This princess understands now. Miss Jiang and sister He appear to share certain personal grievances. Jiang Yan's complexion immediately turned frantic. Noi did not falsely accuse cousin. It truly was cousin who killed my mother. I mean, aunt. The old marchioness's chest rose and fell violently with rage. Could it be that even your highness intends to shield a murderer? This old woman shall appeal directly before the emperor himself and seek justice from his majesty. How insolent! To dare offend the princess lap. Her mouth, the female official beside the princess strode toward the old marchioness and raised her hand to strike. Whether from terror or pretense, the old marchioness rolled her eyes backward and fainted on the spot. The princess ordered her personal guards to escort Jiang Yan and the old marchioness back to the Marquis manor. While delivering a message to the Marquis of Yongchang, my sworn younger sister the county, Lady Jais, the softest-hearted and kindest of souls, whoever wishes to oppose her must first ask whether I, Yuanzhao, shall permit it. Princess Yuanzhao truly honored her promises. She brought with her an imperial decree personally inscribed by the emperor himself. I was formally bestowed the title County Lady Jia. As for the matter itself, it concluded with the official judgment that a servant woman of the manor had stolen valuables and, upon exposure, murdered the mistress of the household. Regarding that servant woman responsible for the crime, she had already been dealt with. The disappearance of the Prince of Southern Zhen left the Yongchang Marquis manor, who had aligned themselves with him politically, without support. They did not dare openly offend the general's manor, now that I possessed the princess as my backing. Thus, they could only swallow their fury. Taking advantage of this opportunity, my father held a grand and magnificent funeral for my mother to make amends. As for Jiang Yan's mother and the man she had brought with her, their corpses had already been reduced to ashes in a single fire. Fearing that I might refuse to attend, they even invited several wives of influential nobles to persuade me. The meaning beneath their words was simple enough. My maternal relatives wished to reconcile. As a younger generation member, I ought to consider the greater picture and avoid being ignorant of what was good for me, lest it affect my future marriage prospects. On the day of the banqueta, veritable hongmen feasty dressed myself carefully from early morning. Father looked deeply troubled. Perhaps you should simply not go. I appeared utterly unconcerned. With so many eyes watching, they dare not do anything to me openly. I have done nothing shameful. If I refuse to go, it will only make it appear as though my conscience is guilty. The moment I arrived at the Yongchang Marquis manor, Jiang Yan informed me that the old marchioness wished to see me alone and dismissed my maids. I followed her all the way to the old marchioness's courtyard. The place was eerily silent. Only a single sturdy governess remained beside the old marchioness. The old marchioness sat upright within a Nanmu wood chair and cast me a light, dismissive glance. She sent Jiang Yan away, then ordered the governess to shut the door. That very instant became my opportunity. While the governess still had her back turned toward me, I seized a flower vase and smashed it viciously against her head. The burly governess collapsed instantly, dead. The old marchioness had clearly never imagined I would be so bold. In terror, she knocked over the scalding tea at her side. She could not even scream properly, only faint, rasping gasps of help escaped her throat. I strode forward swiftly to end matters quickly. The old marchioness collapsed as well. When you see my mother below, remember to apologize. At least then, she could reunite with her beloved grandson, the heir of the Yongchang Marquis manor. There was no helping it. Once again, I had done a good deed. Jiang Yan, who had only just reached the courtyard gate, heard the commotion and returned to investigate. I knocked her unconscious. Though hateful, she had never personally participated in my mother's death. I would not slaughter the innocent indiscriminately. I summoned the shadow guard secretly assigned to me by the princess and had Jiang Yan sent out of the Yongchang Marquis manor first. When Jiang Yan initially led me away, she had done so without anyone noticing. Now, as I returned to the gathering of noble women with my maidservants, everyone merely assumed I had only just arrived. Not long before the banquet was to begin, chaos erupted. The old marchioness had been murdered. The Marquis of Yongchang immediately ordered a search for the killer. All the guests who had come to celebrate the birthday feast suddenly found themselves treated as suspects. The powerful and influential guests, whom the Marquis dared not offend, were permitted to leave at once. Those of lesser status were detained for questioning. As a result, the Marquis offended quite a number of people. The Marquis of Yongchang wished to take me away for private interrogation, but the maid assigned to me by the princess stepped forward to block him. The maid revealed a command token. By order of Her Highness, the Princess, County Lady Jai is her sworn younger sister. To see the County Lady is to see the princess herself. No one may show disrespect. The Marquis of Yongchang wished to detain me by force, yet he possessed no evidence whatsoever, and my maid was highly skilled in martial arts. Thus, he could only glare furiously, beard quivering with rage, as he watched me leave unharmed. The Imperial Medical Bureau had long since fallen under the princess' control. The emperor truly believed what the imperial physicians told him, that he was merely growing old, his spirit somewhat diminished, and that there was nothing seriously wrong with him so long as he rested more. After the disappearance of the heir to the Prince of Southern Zhen, the political climate of the court became dangerously unstable. Every faction grew desperate to choose sides, and memorials urging the emperor to appoint an heir flooded before the throne like drifting snowflakes. Among this turmoil, the princess quietly fanned the flames from the shadows. The emperor finally saw clearly that his subjects were not unwaveringly loyal to him after all. No ruler could tolerate threats against his authority. Moreover, he believed himself the true dragon son of heaven, blessed by the heavens and destined for longevity. Thus, he proclaimed before the court that the matter of selecting an heir required further observation and need not be rushed. One night, while rising from bed, the emperor overheard a young eunuch outside, affectionately addressing Chief Eunuch Li as godfather, fussing over him with warmth and concern. What a scene of loving father and dutiful son. Perhaps age had finally overtaken him. The emperor began longing more and more for children and grandchildren surrounding him, and thus started summoning Princess Yuanzhao into the palace with increasing frequency. Each time she entered the palace, the princess would bring food she had personally prepared for the emperor. Sometimes medicinal cuisine, sometimes soft pastries, easy to digest, sometimes simple household dishes. Occasionally, she would even casually tidy the cluttered imperial desk for him. While the emperor reviewed memorials, she quietly accompanied him at his side, grinding ink in silence. Only when the emperor himself asked for her opinion on matters of state would the princess speak her thoughts calmly, rationally, and with impeccable composure. The emperor praised her warmly. "My daughter possesses both virtue and talent, and her filial heart is beyond reproach." Then he sighed once more. "What a pity you were not born a son. Still, I shall leave behind an imperial edict. No matter who inherits the throne in the future, he must treat my daughter well." The princess' tone remained perfectly calm. "As his only child, even though he acknowledges my abilities, he still looks down upon my sex. Little Ali, watch carefully. One day, I shall make gender irrelevant. Whatever men can accomplish, women shall accomplish as well." Naturally, I fully supported the princess' grand ambitions. How about I simply smash that man with a porcelain bottle and help your highness fulfill your wish sooner? The princess burst into peals of laughter. No, hurry. Just wait and enjoy the show. Peach blossoms blazed brilliantly beneath the spring sun, while orioles sang amid flourishing grasses. Every year, the palace hosted a grand spring banquet attended by the emperor and all the imperial consorts. During the feast, the emperor's most favored consortly, suddenly began vomiting uncontrollably before a dish of braised carp. The imperial physicians soon diagnosed her with pregnancy. The emperor was overjoyed. Heaven itself blesses us. We finally have an heir. Reward her. Elevate Consort Li to noble Consort Li. The emperor had only fathered the princess with the late empress after reaching his 30th year. Thereafter, the imperial harem produced no further children. Now, having already reached the age of knowing destiny, he suddenly learned he would have another child. How could he not rejoice? The princess likewise smiled brightly as she congratulated her imperial father, even pulling aside the imperial physician to carefully inquire after noble consortless condition. Appearing almost eager to personally care for her, the emperor felt deeply gratified. Yuan Zhao, you finally have a younger imperial brother. You must protect this realm well for him. The princess concealed the mockery lurking within her eyes and asked casually, as though merely curious, how many months along is noble consort Li? The imperial physician bowed respectfully, replying to your highness, 3 months. Crash. The emperor erupted in furious rage. The wine cup in his hand smashed violently against the floor, shards scattering in every direction. You shameless whore, you dare commit adultery and defile the imperial harem. Men, drag her away and beat her to death. After enduring such overwhelming joy, followed by devastating fury, the emperor passed away that very night. Everything had unfolded precisely within the princess' control. When the ministers began fiercely arguing over who should ascend the throne, Chief Eunuch Li stepped forward, carrying an imperial edict and publicly read its contents. According to the edict, the throne was to pass to the princess. The court exploded into uproar. The ministers demanded verification of the edict's authenticity. The princess generously allowed them to inspect it however they wished. The edict was fake. No one knew that the princess had mastered 2 distinct styles of calligraphy. For more than 10 years, she had secretly imitated the emperor's handwriting in preparation for this very day. No one could detect the forgery. The gathered officials exchanged uneasy glances. One minister unwillingly raised an objection. His Majesty previously intended to appoint the heir of the Prince of Southern Gen as Crown Prince. Then, he abruptly remembered that the heir of the Prince of Southern Gen had been missing all this time. Instantly, he furiously accused the princess. You killed the heir of the Prince of Southern Gen. What monstrous ambition! My imperial father has only just passed away, and already you seek rebellion. Behind the princess, the imperial guards drew their weapons in perfect unison. The ministers immediately shrank back in fear. The princess swept her gaze across the court. All previous rumors were deliberately released by imperial father himself in order to protect this princess. As the sole bloodline left by my father, I alone received his personal instruction for many years, all in preparation for inheriting the throne after his passing. But there has never been a female emperor throughout history. The princess' voice rang out with absolute force. Then, let this princess become the first. Silence fell across the hall. At last,
one minister turned toward the Yongshang Marquis manor.
Marquis Yongchang, what are your thoughts on this matter? The Yongchang Marquis manor had been the greatest supporter behind the movement to establish the heir of the Prince of Southern Gen as Crown Prince. But now, Both the heir of the Prince of Southern Gen and the heir of the Yongchang Marquis Manor had vanished. Moreover, the Marquis himself knew of the scheme his son and the heir of the Prince of Southern Gen had plotted against the princess. At a moment like this, the Marquis dared not recklessly stand forward and attract attention. If old matters were revisited, his entire clan might well be exterminated. The old fox merely clutched his head and pretended to suffer from splitting pain. The princess thoughtfully instructed palace maids to help him aside to rest. Another minister turned toward my father. General, your son previously maintained close ties with the heir of the Prince of Southern Gen. And what of it, if they were close? Are young people not even permitted to make friends now? My father glanced toward me. I quietly edged one step closer to the princess. My father clenched his teeth before finally producing the command seal of the Imperial Guards and presenting it to the princess. His Majesty personally declared before me that the throne would one day pass to the princess, and ordered us to protect her ascension. My father had once shielded the emperor from an assassin's blade. As one of the emperor's trusted confidants, his words still carried considerable weight. Chief Eunuch Li also stepped forward to testify before His Majesty's death. He personally declared the throne would pass to the princess. Her Highness Consort Shu was present as witness. Chief Eunuch Li had long since been bribed by the princess. As for what conditions the princess had promised Consort Shu, no one knew. Supported by palace maids, Consort Shu approached slowly, her face haggard with grief. This consort may testify as well. Before his death, His Majesty personally declared that the throne should pass to the princess. Myself, my father Consort Shu, and Chief Eunuch Li were the first to kneel and cry aloud. The nation cannot remain one day without a ruler. We humbly beg the new sovereign to ascend the throne. Long live your majesty. Long live your majesty for 10,000 years. Over the years, the princess had quietly gathered supporters within the court. Those officials now knelt as well, acknowledging her authority. We humbly beg your majesty to ascend the throne. Long live your majesty. Once some had taken the lead, the remaining ministers gradually lowered themselves to their knees, one after another, even had they wished to refuse. The sight of the armored imperial guards lining the palace avenues left them no choice but to kneel. The princess swiftly ascended the throne, adopting the reign title Emperor Yuanzhao. Her Majesty asked me what reward I desired. You helped us eliminate our greatest rivals and secure crucial allies. You are a minister of tremendous merit. I answered truthfully in the past. This subject wished only to avenge my mother. Now that my great vengeance has been fulfilled, my heart's desire is already complete. I have nothing further to ask for. Her Majesty pondered briefly before declaring, then we shall confer upon you the title of Prince of Changel. We additionally bestow upon you a princely manor. You shall assist us in fulfilling our long-cherished ambitions, founding academies for women, selecting female officials, elevating the status of women, and helping women establish lives independent of men. The voices opposing my elevation to princely rank within the court were many. Whoever protested the loudest, Her Majesty sent shadow guards to investigate. Not a single one of those ministers proved innocent. Some accepted bribes and embezzled silver. Some abducted innocent women. Some indulged vicious servants in committing atrocities. Every official investigated was severely punished by Her Majesty very quickly. The opposition against granting me princely rank disappeared entirely. Thus, I was elevated from County Lady Jai to Prince of Changel. My father himself did not approve of my investiture as a prince. Our family already possesses a first-rank great general. If we add a princely title on top of that, we will become far too conspicuous. By choosing the correct side at the proper moment, My father had earned the merit of supporting a sovereign's rise to power. Her Majesty promoted him to first-rank Grand General, who protects the Nashina supreme glory for the entire clan. I nodded. Father, you are right. Our family truly cannot be too ostentatious. You should resign from office before Her Majesty. Father froze in shock. I looked at him seriously. Father, do you know my mother's real name? She was not called Gu Mingju. Her name was Lin Daohua. It was the name given by her adoptive parents, who hoped she would live as brilliantly as peach blossoms in full bloom. Many years ago, I already recovered mother's remains and buried her within the peach grove at the estate. Did you not always claim your longing for mother pierced your bones? Mother misses you as well. Go accompany her. In truth, my mother's remains had long since vanished without a trace. How could the powerless child I once was ever have found them? Yet now, father carried deep guilt toward both mother and me. He stared at me for a long while before silently turning away. The following day, he entered the palace and formally resigned his office. Her Majesty readily approved. After father left, it felt as though a tremendous stone lodged within my heart had suddenly been removed. Everything became astonishingly clear and light. My feelings toward father had always been complicated. I never knew how to face him. He was my biological father, yet he had spent 12 years living alongside the woman who murdered my mother, sending away his own daughter while raising the enemy's children at his side. Had I not coincidentally encountered Her Majesty during childhood and received her assistance, father would likely have long since become surrounded by countless children, and there would never have been a place for me within the general's manor. Back in the mountains, I had recognized Her Majesty immediately. I simply had not expected that by sheer accident I would help her eliminate her rivals and repay the kindness from our childhood encounter. Perhaps fate truly was preordained by heaven. After leaving behind a residence and several shops for Lin Janerth, a pregnant wife of Zhang Jito, secure her future livelihood, I sold everything within the general's manor. Taking the fortune I obtained, I moved into the manor of the Prince of Changle and devoted myself entirely to new ambitions. Seeing me tirelessly labor year after year for the cause of women's academies, Her Majesty eventually decided I deserved a reward. My beloved minister, do you want men? Princes, nobles, sons of great aristocratic houses, whichever you please. Your Majesty, I merely want men. I do not wish to marry. Is that acceptable? Her Majesty burst into delighted laughter. The very next day, she sent over a group of handsome young men, roughly my own age. From among them, I selected 3 I particularly liked and stated clearly that I was not choosing husbands, only attendants. Those willing to remain would be treated generously. Those unwilling could leave freely, and Her Majesty would never blame them. The 3 handsome gentlemen looked at one another before all expressing their willingness to stay. 2 years later, I gave birth to a daughter. I named her She. I then entered the palace to request sterilization medicine for men from Her Majesty. I had no intention of bearing another child, nor did I wish, years later, for my daughter to face younger half-siblings, born of the same father, fighting her for power and inheritance. Princess Extra story. Imperial father rose to the throne through the support of Imperial mother's clan. Yet, after securing his rule, he discarded them like worn-out tools. He poisoned Imperial mother to death. Then, under the pretext of some trivial offense, he exiled my maternal grandfather's entire family to the frozen frontier lands, condemning them to guard the borders without imperial summons ever permitting their return to the capital. Only I, still young and helpless, remained in the capital. Fortunately, at the time, I was also the palace's sole imperial descendant. But once Imperial father fathered other children, my fate would inevitably mirror that of my mother's clan. Chief Eunuch Lee beside Imperial Father had once received kindness from my mother. Meanwhile, the head of the Imperial Medical Bureau had once had his life saved by my maternal grandfather during his youth. Thus, administering infertility poison to Imperial Father proceeded remarkably smoothly. For many years afterward, no further children were born within the palace. Imperial Father already struggled greatly with producing heirs, and thus believed his own guilty conscience and countless sins had brought heaven's punishment upon him. I became the sole princess of the Imperial Palace. The heir of the Prince of Southern Gen invited me to hunt in the mountains, hoping to engineer a situation in which I would owe him a life debt, thereby gaining my support. Imperial Father merely intended to make him crown prince. He was not the only possible candidate, but with my support, his chances would increase enormously. Yet how had he never considered that I myself desired that throne? I secretly arranged assassins to ensure the heir of the Prince of Southern Gen, the heir of the Yongchang Marquis Manor, who supported him, and the son of the Dragon Martial Guard would all perish within the mountains. Those men truly possessed some skill. Against all odds, they escaped. Such an opportunity would never come so easily again. What a terrible pity. Thankfully, little Healy resolved that troublesome matter for me. The instant she appeared, I recognized her as the little girl from years ago, whose tear-streaked face resembled a filthy kitten, just like me. A mother dead, a father indifferent. If we wanted anything, we could only fight for it with our own hands. The story ends here. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, and we shall meet again next time.